quick 2-week hiatus, but we're back. I was getting hungry looking at
Yeah,
on the
it's
pre-talk.
my cereal. It's my breakfast. It's at noon. I should eat earlier, and it's not a good breakfast. It's Captain Crunch Berries, but whatever.
Is that
What are you gonna do?
indirect intermittent fasting?
No, I don't eat a lot in the morning, but I end up eating at night. So,
Okay.
but the problem is I should stop eating at 7 p.m. and then not eat till 11 a.m. And I've done that before and it works. But lately I've been eating after 7 p.m. So then I wake up and I'm like, well, I ate too much last night. So I won't eat breakfast, which is stupid because that kickstarts your metabolism, gets you going. I'm in a bad mode right now when it comes to food. No discipline, it just doesn't happen. But whatever. I mean, who cares? I'm always going to be the weight I am. Even if I diet, I'll still be in the same range, just the way it is. So,
Well,
but it is good. I mean, cereal is really good. It's just I shouldn't be eating this garbage, but it was on sale.
Captain Crunch, I love it.
Oh, it's unbelievable. So good, but so bad for you. So, now what's good for you? It's a little segue.
There you go. Good segue.
Is the promotion. So we had our guy Carson Rauner got a couple FCS offers. Yep. Last week, Cyrus Abood, the linebacker for Florida, got his first offer, Bowling Green. A lot of our guys getting additional camp invites. Cash Ferris, the DB from Arkansas, getting invited to a lot of different camps. But we were talking off camera about camps. So the promo it's in my bio, and it's up on the screen. It's www.myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo. We will socially promote your film through our over 1 million followers through all social media channels. Coaches will eventually notice it if they don't at first. They will, you get more followers, you get more attention. You may get more invites to this, that, and the other. You may eventually get offers. That's what's happened with a lot of our kids. But it's a slow roll. I mean, so it's not like, we're going to promote you one time and you're going to go viral. It's 6-month or 12-month options. The 12-month is the best. It costs money, but it has been very effective. I don't think we've had one guy through our program that hasn't, through our extended program, 6-timer, which is what we used to do, or 6-month, 1 year, that hasn't gotten an offer.
That's correct.
We had a lot of one-timers. And I do, hit them up and check in on the recruiting and say, what's going on? How's it going? And they're still stuck there with no offers and no interest and all that stuff. And I said, well, when you do sign up for the one-timer, we always suggest something longer because it takes a long time. But those have been the ones that have been the least effective, and the longer ones have been very effective. So, but talking about summer camps and stuff like that and waiting, you just shouldn't wait. A lot of people right now, as we talked about, the spring evaluation period is ending, but summer camps are coming. You're going to get invited to summer camps if you have a pulse, because it's a moneymaker. You may be invited as a team, you may be invited as an individual, but not in a one-day option. You have to pay for 4 days. If you have to pay for 4 days as a player, you're not going to get attention, just the way it is. Thousands and thousands of kids go to these camps unless you're a one-day guy. And if you get in the promotion and you get coaches to follow you, that gives you the option to DM coaches and say, hey, coach, I'm coming to your camp at Syracuse. Can I come for 1 day? Here's who I am. You're much more likely to get that say yes, and then also get more attention when you go there. So everybody out there waiting to do the promo until after summer camps, thinking they're going to get an offer, unless you're a one-day camper or in some sort of showcase, it's very unlikely you're going to get anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you want to, first of all, you also want them to be aware of you. So if you're in promotion now, they will be aware of you coming into camps. You'll have the opportunity to have several choose a camp that is going to get you more likely to get looked at, to get yourself in the group that actually gets looked at, because you could be over on field 18 running around aimlessly. And listen, I would say this. If you want to go to the college football camp because you're looking to get better, sure, doesn't matter what field you're on, right? You're gonna be doing work, you're gonna do drills. But if you're looking to get recruited, there are certain places on the field where all the coaches are going to be for the recruits that they deem prospects. And if you're not in those groups, then you're getting a good workout, but you're not going to be getting looked at. And I think it's amazing to me, and you've been doing this even longer than I have, how to this day still people show up at camps not even having any clue as to how that process works. But that is an important thing to understand. Even if you're not in the quote unquote top tier group, and for some reason you're not going to be in that group, you need to know that, right? Because you're doing your workout and you're doing your best you can. You know what you're going to the camp for, because if you're not in front of the college coaches at the college camps and your group is not in front of them, okay, or the majority of them, you're going to go and get a great workout, but you're definitely not going to get looked at like you think you might be.
Yeah, and there's exceptions, of course. If
Yes.
if you bust off a really good time, you'll get bumped up into an A group. If somebody happens to notice you in one of the off fields, they'll pull you over, but that's very rare. But I've talked to obviously, many college coaches over the years, and one of the things I was told is, team camps are for team building. So, at BC or Rutgers, the Bosco entire team would go, or the Bergen Catholic team would go or whatever. And that's, you get a team group rate, but they already know who the best players are. And those kids are going to be in the showcases, and the other kids are just going to go there. And if you're an individual kid and you sign up for camps, the goal is to, get your money and make you tired. That's what I was told. So if you're doing a 4-day camp experience as a kid and you're paying X amount of dollars to the college to do that, they want to make sure that you go back to your parents exhausted. Like you really had a good workout. You really got pushed. You really got this, that, and the other. So they will push you and they will make you exhausted. And so the thought process there is that you got your money's worth, and they're not interested in you as a college player at all. But they got your money, and the parents got the satisfaction of knowing that the coaches pushed them hard. And the kid, who's very naive, thinks that maybe he turned some heads, or maybe he's going to get that phone call or whatever. But it's like me when I was 8 years old in my driveway shooting threes, pretending a scout was going to drive by from the Celtics, discover my jump shot, and take me on the route to the NBA. And maybe I was 6, maybe I was 8, I don't know. But it's that type of childlike thinking where, something good is going to happen. Maybe it will happen. Maybe they'll see me at these camps and I'll be great. And they'll be like, wow, what's this kid doing in this group, and pull them up. Very rarely happens. So if you do the promotion, like Cash Ferris is a great example. The DB from Arkansas, he's not on a lot of radars, because he's not a speedster. He's not a kid that has 100-meter times. He's not a kid that has tested, super fast. So what he needs to do, and I'm not saying he's slow, but he's in that high 4.6, 5, 4.7 range, and everybody wants 4.4, 4.5. He gets invited to these camps, and then that opportunity allows him to DM coaches and say, hey, I'm a D-back. I'm coming to your camp at Syracuse. Can you get me in touch with the defensive backs coach, or I might not come. And then if they want him, if they want his money, they'll get, the D-backs coach might DM him or whatever. And then he knows who he is. And then he could try to talk himself into getting a 1-day invite, or being a showcase kid, or even as a 4-day kid, being in a group where he's going to be monitored by an actual Syracuse football coach and maybe pushed over to the next level. It's all about them knowing who you are, other than being a number. Because what they do is they put on the helmet, they slap your name on the front, and that's it. No one's going to notice you. No one's going to notice if you're good or not. You have to let them know ahead of time. So now, if you're waiting to do the promotion because you got invited to a couple college camps, and those are in June, don't wait. you get invited to more college camps, but also you can also possibly get followed by those coaches that have invited to college camps, communicate with them. They're going to pay more attention to you because you're on our feed. And then maybe you get that discussion and you actually get a human being evaluating you. But if not, you're going to be another number.
Yeah. And you want the opportunity to be put in by the promotion over time. You get put in that group, you get looked at, you're going to be able to DM coaches. You're going to be able to be in a position that they start to follow you. They're following us. They're going to follow you if you're what they see and they agree with what we see. And I think those things are. I think the big thing that's really happened is the college coaches that have gravitated towards what we're putting out there have seen the genuine approach to looking at what the player can do well, and then they see if that matches with what they're looking for. And when that does, it puts you in a position to be looked at a lot quicker and a lot earlier than other guys. And listen, the bottom line is this whole thing's a filtering process. If you're initially filtered out to start with, you've got to get yourself in the filter. And that's the biggest thing that a lot of guys do not realize, that they want to not have you in the filter. They're only going to put you into that process if they really think you're worthwhile. And that's your whole objective, and your whole work is to be able to do that. And that's a hard thing for people to understand, is that, like, no, they're not looking to recruit you. They're looking for reasons not to recruit you, and that's an important thing, because they have to find the players that could fit whatever they're looking to do on the field. And they have to find the players that they can help them win games. And the only way you get filtered in is if you showcase that. And in order to get into that process is you need to have people help advocate for you. And this is a big thing. If you're advocating for yourself with 50 followers and 49 of them are your friends from high school, okay, it's not going to really make a big difference. And those are the things that, like, oh, well, I can post them. Every once in a while I'll get this when we reach out to guys. I could just post them on my own platform. I'm like, who follows you? Like, no one other than your friends. No one's following you. You want to generate the process so people start to know who you are. You're tweeting out into an abyss where there's no reason for someone to look at your film. You have to have people that are surrounding you to be able to give them reasons to do that. And then there's a process to it. Like, one of the nice things, not just about what we do from a social media posting platform, doing the video, all those kind of things, but the people we're tagging, right? Me tagging you, you tagging me, the people that are associated with us, okay, that work with us, those guys will have followings, and they're then retweeting a lot of these things. It is a tree with a lot of branches, and that's what you want. You want the tree with a lot of branches to reach out to more people, to be. And a lot of guys think that they could tag us. I don't know if you've seen this, right, Mike, that aren't part of our program.
Oh, yeah. I ignore every one of them. Sorry.
Yeah, tag me and 100 other guys, right? Well, if you're not someone we know about, there's no reason for any of those people that you tag to take a look at it, right?
No,
That's the things. They think they could just tag them and all of a sudden look at it. Now, will people look at something that we don't even tag people other than our group that is part of our initial network? The coaches follow us and it comes to their feed. They're not understanding how the algorithm works and the proper way to utilize Twitter.
Yeah, and the other part of it too, which is kind of interesting, is the Twitter algorithm, especially because that's where I have the most followers, is when you DM with somebody, and DMs are apparently down right now on Twitter because ever since Elon Musk took over, Twitter's been just kind of a nightmare. When you DM with somebody, guess what happens to the algorithm? People you communicate, people you like their tweets, or you retweet their tweets, or you quote tweet their tweets, or you DM with them, they're going to show up in your feed more. So let's say I'm DMing with a coach, I won't say who, about something else, because part of my business is obviously covering 5-star and 4-star kids, and part of my business is working with a company doing NIL for commitment announcements. So I'm talking for my own business to recruiting coordinators, head football coaches, assistant coaches all the time through DM. if I'm having a conversation with one of those guys about something else, the portal, something else, my feed's going to show up in their algorithm a lot more. So it's funny because you may be a kid who wants attention from a coach in Pennsylvania, and I maybe happen to talk to an assistant coach at Penn State or Pitt. Well, they're going to see my stuff because I'm interacting with them. And that's the other thing that you don't get. So if you get these other companies that charge you money, you probably won't hit a coach's algorithm because they're not communicating with coaches through DM, because coaches don't give a crap about them. Head coaches, assistant coaches, recruiting coaches care what I have to say because they have to, because I'm ranking their kids. I'm writing about kids they want information from me as to who, where a kid's leaning and all this other stuff. They want me to write good things. Of course, everybody wants me to write good things. I write bad things half the time, or they're complaining to me that I wrote something bad, but they're in my DMs. I'm talking to them. So my algorithm is loaded with coaches. And that's, your film's going to get seen by coaches more so than a company that doesn't talk to any coaches through DM. And that's what I've learned about Twitter more so is, it's always been this way, but since Musk took over, the blue check mark's gone. I don't have a blue check mark anymore. Now, I could sign up for Twitter Blue and pay $11 a month, and I'll be in a bigger, better algorithm because that's what he wants for this company to monetize, which is good for him, great for him. I'll pay $11, get in a better algorithm. But for people looking to get attention on the college level, the coaches are in my algorithm anyways because I'm talking to them, if that makes any sense. And that's an added bonus that you're just not going to get from anybody else. So I don't know. Like I said, it works. It's a long grind. It's slow. We got a lot of kids with faults. I mean, there's no 5-star kids in our program. There's no kids that don't need to work on something. We may have a linebacker that's undersized. We may have a DB that doesn't run as fast. We may have a quarterback that doesn't have an elite arm. But you're going to get noticed. You're going to get the right fit for you when it comes to that level of football. You may not be an Alabama or a Penn State guy, but you may be San Diego State, or you may be lower than that, Valdosta. But you're going to find the right fit for you college-wise, and they're going to find you through the program.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. You can go to myfootballcamps.com/D1 promos on them, both Mike and mine signage here. So you can see it right there. Soon we'll be adding so the upfront, you can go on there and you'll see the upfront payment. You can obviously reach out to those DMs and talk to us. But soon we'll be adding it's year long or 6 month monthly continuous, which the year long is at a discounted rate. The year long is at a discounted rate, but the monthly process will be a little bit higher overall. But those of you who need the payments, we're gonna come up with that, and you'll be able to go online and just do that too, because that may be for some people an easier conversation to be able to have them go and just be able to point them in the direction they can get them rolling, just like I pay for my Amazon subscription or something like that.
Yeah, it's better. It's better to pay up front, of course, like anything else, like the recruiting services. This is another one too. I talked to somebody through DM about the system, about the promotion, and he there's obviously I don't know who to believe, who not to believe, but I always get these, stories. I've got this issue going on, and all my money's going to medical bills, or I got this issue going on and all my money's going to fixing my car or whatever. There's a lot of different situations there. But what the person told me is, they spent all this money on these other services and they didn't have any money left. And these other services, the couple of the services that this person paid, they were trying to get to rivals in 24/7 and On3 and ESPN. And I said, what? Like, yeah, to get them a profile on there, to get them a ranking on there. I go, that means nothing. That is absolute garbage. It couldn't mean less, especially nowadays with so many kids on those sites and so many false rankings. Coaches don't pay attention to that crap. Coaches pay attention to rankings as to how it impacts their team ranking. So if
Right.
they take a 2-star, and you're Nebraska, you don't want to take a 2-star because it ruins your average star rating. It ruins your team ranking and all that stuff. But guess what? You take a 2-star, instantly he commits to Nebraska. He's going to be a 3-star instantly. It maybe not overnight, but in the next rankings update, he'll be a 3-star because it's all garbage. It's like the 2-star is unacceptable. We've had this conversation numerous times.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
So to try to get on a site to get a ranking, not going to do you any good. And listen, our buddy Carson Kruger, the quarterback who's going to Florida Atlantic, he was obsessed with that for a while. And I kept telling him, like, listen, that's not going to help you. And I've got other parents that are obsessed with that now as well. And I tell them, and I just had a text conversation with one of them. I said, Matt Rule offers your kid tomorrow and he commits, he's a high 3-star.
Correct.
Right now he's a 2 or has no stars. I go, but it's all bogus. But it doesn't work. It's chicken and egg, but it's not. Like, if you get a high 3-star ranking on a website, then you think Matt Rule is going to offer you because of that? No. It's Matt Rule offers you, you commit, then you get the ranking. And that's always the way it works. So I was kind of surprised that this person paid money to a company that says, part of our deal is to get with these sites to get you a profile and get you a ranking. I go, that's just a complete waste of time. First of all, they're never going to get anywhere. I did this for 100 years. I ignored everybody, parents, kids, coaches, recruiting services, whatever. I ignored everybody because it was my job to ignore everybody because I was focused on the 5 and the 4 stars. And that's what made my company money. And secondly, if I did take on, like, say somebody called in a favor, let's say it's a head football coach and this is his stepbrother's kid. Right. Can you give him a 3-star ranking? Sure. It's not going to help him at all. So I was surprised by that. So there's a lot of companies out there, trying to do the wrong thing for you. I'm not going to try to get you a star ranking anywhere because it means nothing. I'm not going to try to get you a profile anywhere because it means nothing. What I'm going to try to do is put your film in an algorithm where coaches are going to see it. And if they like you, they're going to reach out to you. And you can't get better than that. I'm also not going to contact coaches on your behalf because, again, we had one kid who was really focused on one school, wanted us to reach out to that particular school. And it was the father, not the kid. I said, no, I knew the coach is there. I could have. But with that, A, becomes 10 different favors I have to do for that coach, which I'm not doing. And B, it's not going to be a difference maker. He's not going to take that kid as a favor. Those days are gone. And I'll tell you kind of what ended that. And not specifically, but Craig James's kid. Craig James, I used to love Craig James in college, SMU, Pony Express. He's a New England Patriot. Everything about him I loved growing up in Connecticut, being a big fan of Eric Dickerson and Craig James. His kid, way back, I think in the mid to late 2000s, maybe early 2010s, I don't remember. He was an okay football player. Craig James called in every favor he could possibly get, including me. And I didn't really help him. But he wanted me to contact schools to somebody take my kid. Take him, and he'll earn his way from there. And he got a 3-star ranking because his name was James. And Texas Tech took him. I don't know why. And he ended up being the kid that Mike Leach put in the storage shed. And Mike Leach lost his job because of it. And it turned out, that it was a big mistake to take that kid. And now nobody does any favors for anybody.
For that reason.
You could lose your job. It's not worth it. What did Mike Leach gain by that? Nothing. Maybe you get an autographed helmet from Craig James or something. Like, he got nothing from it, but he lost his freaking job. So nobody's going to do any favors like that. And it's not going to matter if they do. You got to do it the hard way. You got to get noticed. And then, from there, like I said, we're not going to contact coaches for you. But the guy who wanted this one school got an offer, and now it's going to snowball, and that's how this works. And he may get the offer from the school he wants because of it. But he did it the old-fashioned hard way. And that's the only way to do it.
Well, I agree. I think that once you get into the process and you realize that first offer dictates everything, and we're going to help you get to that point, then you'll realize very quickly That's the thing about the system. You know what's amazing, and obviously you were part of the system, so it's really really interesting. The system for so long has been able to operate with this piece of candy that really doesn't exist, right? Like it really doesn't exist. And what I say this to people all the time. What do college coaches want more? Do they want more people to reach out to them so their job is harder, or do they want less people to reach out to them? If people are always reaching out to them all the time, and it takes up more and more time for them to find people, then it makes it harder for them. The reason why the rivals or 24/7 or on three are going to put your profile up and give you a star ranking not until basically you get an offer is because this becomes a waste of everybody's time. Why would they want to do more work? Okay, if you look at how it was now, it's not like the days when you came out to the camps, right? And that process in itself, which was a great filtering process, parents started to dislike the fact that they had to get timed. And I always say this to this day. You know what? Like that made the job easier for everybody to be able to find out what guys run and actually help guys who were not known to be able to get recruited, whether they came to ours or VTO or and it actually helped us all to know who were recruitable guys. Now, when there's so much information going out, they're going to focus harder without any quote unquote outside times to be able to go off of as much as they used to be able to do. They're going to focus much harder on the guys they know about. That's why just getting a profile means absolutely nothing. They don't know what you run the 40 in. They don't know what you've done in this. They don't know what you've done in that. Getting a profile without having any offers is meaningless. When you have offers, you will get the profile and then you will get whatever appropriate ranking they deem for you to be, right? And so that's the whole. It's fun. One of the funny things that we found with well, we started to rate some of the better players there, and we just kind of do it independently. We do it independently. We found that what is it like? I've watched these films. Yeah, this kid might be a little bit better than this kid here, but I don't know what this kid's personality is like, who he is, how he is, what his GPA is. So those things all have to go through the process, and that's why this year long and this 6 month process that we have, we're enabling you to develop the relationship with us, develop the relationship with coaches. Coaches are seeing you more. They're going to investigate more time into finding about what you are like, what you can do, and hopefully that begins to really put you in a position to get recruited.
Yeah, and there are companies that will give you star ratings, and we will do it as well. It's part of our year-long membership. But the star ratings come from two people that people know. They don't come from some company called Prep this or Prep that or whatever, and nobody knows who's behind that. Like the ratings come from us directly. Is it something that's going to help you? Probably not. I mean, certainly it helps if we say a kid's a 4-star level prospect. Like I think you have the Mosley kid from Georgia as a 4-star level prospect, and now he's got the offers to sort of back that up, although not offers for one of the regular websites. Those aren't offers. Those are, you look at his offer list, he's a low 3-star. And that's how they do it. They'll just look at the offers and rank them accordingly. But for us, we provide that with the year long. It's not one of the things that I sell. I'll do it for sure. And maybe a coach out there, or a recruiting, personnel guy that I've known for 100 years. There's a lot of these guys I've run into at colleges now that used to be players that I scouted and ranked back in the day, or, they were high school assistant coaches who have moved up in the world. They may see it and say, well, Farrell wouldn't put a 3-star on this kid if he wasn't, that level. Let's take a look at him. But I'm just telling you, they're going to make their own decision. Whether you're a 3-star on one of these sites or a 3-star through us, they're never going to rubber stamp you an offer because of that. Just not the case. So, you can focus on that. You can focus on, all the things, the wasted time of trying to get a profile, of trying to get a ranking, of emailing those guys constantly, of tagging those guys constantly. I just ran into a kid that I've been talking to who got a high ranking from one of these other websites that charges money for that. It's not going to help them. It's not going to do a thing for them. What they're going to do is they're going to instantly do their own homework, and it's going to take them about 3 seconds to do it. And then they're going to, maybe if they get past that, maybe they'll watch the first 30 seconds of your film and then determine from there. With us, you've got a 1 minute cut up. It doesn't take long. It auto rolls right in our feed, and they're going to check it out. And then they're going to make a decision based on that. And it may be that they don't like you or you're not good enough or whatever. But you're not going to be spinning your wheels at all. You're not going to be emailing and tagging. That's pointless. If they like you, they're going to find you and come get you. And the way they're going to find you and come get you is through this. And there's really no other way to say it, just the way it is. And it's a frustrating process for a lot of people. I had a discussion with a father last week about the process, and I said how the portal has changed everything now. You're year to year in football. You can go FCS to Power 5 in football if you hit it right and you play well enough at that level. You can also go Power 5 down to FCS if you don't play right where you're at. I mean, Deion's pushed 60 plus kids out of Colorado that all thought, this is it. I made it. I'm Power 5. But for academics, for education, you have to weigh that as well. Do I want to play at the FCS level for 4 years? Or do I want to, walk on at the Power 5 level and maybe not play at all? But to have those options, and this kid has those options now because of the program, that's all you're looking for. Then you can decide whatever you want to do. I don't care. I don't care if you take a scholarship from this school or don't and go walk on here. I don't care. We got a couple of big time preferred walk on kids. That's your choice. But guess what? You have that choice now because of us and because of your own hard work too. But you can work as hard as you want and no one's going to notice. And so what we do is we take your hard work and we make people notice it. And that's the recipe for success. And there's really no other recipe for it.
That's exactly it. I want to transition and so before we do, go myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo, take a look, reach out to us. We'll be glad to answer any questions you had. I want to just bring this up because I had a prospect that's in our program that just messaged me. They were asking about any combines and showcases before they go to start going to college camps. And they said there's this camp, I guess in their area, that's $350 to go to for their kids per kid. I said, you don't need to go to that combine showcase. That's a waste of $350 to go to a combine. What like, are they handing out magic sticks? What are they handing out there? Are they giving candy? Are they, what is going on? So, this is exactly the thing that we can help you avoid having to worry about. Getting put in a situation. Just think about that. $350. Our promo for 6 months is $600. One camp where no one's going to probably even do the proper evaluation or look at you. You're going to pay $350. You could actually pay for 6 months of 6 months of promotion. This is exactly what we're trying to talk to people about to understand. We're already almost the time. In June starts the college camps, right? So basically a week and a half away, 2 weeks away. Save that money. Go, choose your college camps. Do the promotion. Instead of you going to 5 combines for, I guess some people are charging $300. I mean, it's funny when people laugh and say something when we have our $99 showcase and combine. I say now to this day, I said we must be the fools, right? Because we go and charge $99 for the two of the biggest, for lack of a better word, stars in the recruiting game. We charge $99. Guys who don't even know anyone are charging $350 and getting people to pay. We must be the biggest fools, right? But the bottom line is that you could get that promotion Okay, 6 months for what you would pay to go to two of these ridiculous showcases and then go to your college camps in the summer. You want to go to a camp where you're learning how to get skills in a position? Absolutely, you should do that. You should absolutely, I've always been an advocate of that. Like things that improve your football skills, your speed, your strength, those things you should be going to throughout the summer. Absolutely. But as far as from a recruiting standpoint, do the promotion stuff, go to college camps, right? I mean, if a guy says, "Hey, I should I go to this wide receiver camp?" and is this a good place to go? Yeah, I mean, if you're going to learn how to become a better wide receiver and you're a wide receiver, you should do that, right? You know a guy that's good. He has a camp, but don't mistake that for recruiting. That's a different thing. These are different animals, and I know that some people and you might be able to talk to it, loop it all together. There are things that are more recruiting focused, and there are things that are training development based focused, and you got to know where to put your money into those things that are the right thing for that, and that's a big deal. So go pick out some college camps based off of what maybe is going on now. You should be getting the promo, so hopefully you get more college camps to be able to go to that you can get yourself recruited. Maybe save some of your money on these listen, I have no problem you going to combine showcase under $100. Even if it doesn't work out the way you want, you're really not spending that much money. But if you're going to spend $300, $400, or $400, that just seems like you're throwing money away. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. I would rather, invest $600 in this than I would in $600 in camps, and that includes any camps. And that's just me. If you're going to go to six camps for $100 a pop, or go to this, you're going to get noticed more here. But that's just the way it is.
Right.
It's again, if you have money, do both. If you don't, if it's a choice, between I can't afford to do your promotion because I'm going to these camps and they cost me $600, I'm like, that's just foolish. It makes no sense. You're not going to get anywhere that way. But people, there's so much false information. I didn't realize this when I got out of Rivals. I didn't realize how much false information there was, how many people were selling these things. We had partnered with a big company that sold this stuff, but I didn't know to the level of how much investment people were putting in this and how much they were being lied to and told what works and what doesn't work. I mean, I didn't know if ours would work or not. No idea. It works. It just does. And it's going to work for the people that continue to, get promotion. Like Zaire Daniel's a great example. It's a kid that's, I think he's mowing lawns to save up. He did a 3-timer with us and he got on a payment plan and he paid for it himself. We got him out there. Now he's known, now he's being invited to camps and stuff like that. He did it. I think he was up at UConn the other day. Now he's at least known. A talented kid, was very unknown in down in the Mid-Atlantic area. Now he's saving to sign up again because, again, 3 times you get a little known. 6 months or a year, and we had the 3-timer back when he started. We don't really have that anymore. You're going to get more notice and more notice, and he gets it. And he's going to, mow lawns or do whatever he has to do to pay that monthly bill over the 6 months to get what he wants to get. He's not going to waste that, hard-earned money on going to some camp that charges him X amount of dollars where he's not going to get noticed unless he makes the top performers list, which is already kind of preset. He gets it, but it sucks. I wish everybody had money. I wish everybody had a ton of money. I wish they could all throw in, do our 12-month plan and go to as many camps as they wanted to and do this.
Right.
We have some clients like that, and they're very lucky that they can do all that stuff. But a lot of people don't. So if you're going to put your money into anything, this is probably the thing you should do more so than that other stuff.
Makes a ton of sense. Let's transition into some of the transfer portal stuff. Like what's going on? I think first of all, let's talk about some of the stars that have transferred in and out of places. Let's start with that.
Geez. I mean, so here's the thing. It's funny because the transfer portal has changed everything. You look at the NFL draft, and over the years there were guys that were drafted higher that have become NFL superstars. The Baker Mayfield was drafted high. He was a transfer from Texas Tech to Oklahoma. Kyler Murray drafted number 1 overall. He was a transfer from Texas A&M to Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. These are, these are examples of before the portal. Now it's portal city, man. And in 4 years from now, it's no longer going to be, this kid played 3 years and, at the same school. It's going to be very rare. It's going to be very rare. So the portal itself, we have a portal program too, myfootballcamps.com/transfer, I believe it is, which is much less expensive. There's a lot of kids stuck in the portal now, but when you're talking about like guys, I look at the NFL draft and, well, it's actually kind of interesting because most of the top guys stayed with their school. Jahmyr Gibbs was number 12 overall, Georgia Tech to Alabama. Who else? Well, this is kind of interesting. There aren't as many transfers. Jordan Addison's a transfer. But what's happening now with the transfer portal, in the next couple of years, we're going to see most of the high draft picks played at 2 different schools. Right. Tyler Buchner goes to Alabama because Sam Hartman came into Notre Dame. Sam Hartman comes from Wake Forest. He's the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Tyler Buchner gets nudged out because he didn't win the job. He goes to Alabama. Who's going to leave there? Ty Simpson and Jalen Milroe are the 2 guys that may not win that job. They could be jumping in the portal next. It's musical chairs, but what it really does, Peyton Thorne just left Michigan State at the end of spring. He was supposed to be the starter, I believe, and he's going to Auburn. And Auburn really needs a quarterback, and that's a stopgap for them, and it's great. But it's changed everything because now, as I said, college football is year to year. So, you could be Jordan Addison and have 2 great years at Pitt, and then, you lose your quarterback, you lose your wide receiver coach, you lose your offensive coordinator, jump in the portal, go to USC, NIL money like crazy, make a bag for a year, end up being a first rounder. It's great. But there's a lot of other kids that are under the radar that are going to make differences at schools. And I think in this draft, it's more the second round guys like Osiris Torrance, who, was he was at Louisiana and then he went over to Florida. Will Levis, second round, Penn State to Kentucky. A lot of those guys are making their living now because they weren't in good situations and they wanted to get in better situations. And it wasn't like they could go in and be the highest bidder. It was they needed a change to improve their draft stock. And that's kind of where we're at here. So the portal was busy from the 15th through the end of the month. There's a bunch of kids stuck there that have no home. Those kids should contact us. They should DM us. But next year, I think you're going to see a whole lot. If you watch March Madness this year, a lot of the players in, the Sweet 16, Elite 8, even before that, this kid started his career at a smaller school and moved up because that's how basketball is. You're going to see that more and more in college football. You're going to see a whole lot more. Julius Brent's a good example, was at Iowa, Kansas State, second rounder. I mean, on and on it goes. And it changes college football because so who claims Jordan Addison? I'll ask you this. 2-year starter at Pitt, Biletnikoff Award winner, his second year at Pitt, goes to USC his last year. Who brags about him? I mean, Pitt fans are upset he left. USC fans are happy they had him. Whose school is he?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, well, obviously they're both going to claim him. I mean, that's what's going to happen. They're both going to claim like what you see with Jalen Hurts, right? Doesn't Alabama like?
So I do have a point there though, because Jordan Addison. So where did you have your best college success? You can make a point that Jalen Hurts was benched at Alabama,
right,
and finished his career at Oklahoma on the upswing. Joe Burrow didn't play at Ohio State, so they can't claim him. He finished at LSU, obviously, as the number 1 pick overall. Jamison Williams didn't play at Ohio State, went to Alabama. Alabama can claim him. But what if a guy like Jordan Addison was really great at Pitt, not as great at USC, but was good at both? Who gets him?
Great point.
And that's going to happen a lot more. So if you're a college football fan, I know you're a UConn fan and I'm a Boston College fan, so we don't really matter. But let's say you're a Texas fan, it's going to happen a lot. So, Where's my loyalty? Or if I'm a Pitt fan, do I hate Jordan Addison because he left us? Because I would be upset. Or, and what if that happened to Larry Fitzgerald? What if Larry Fitzgerald back in the day went 2 years at Pitt and then went off to another school like Texas? I would be really pissed if I was a Pitt fan. So do I like Jordan Addison? Do I root for him? Do I hate him because he left us? Can I really brag to my buddies that that's our guy? Like BC fans can brag Luke Kuechly's their guy. Played there 3 years. No
Right.
question. LSU fans can really brag Joe Burrow, but there's other guys that are just this middle where your buddy's always going to turn to you and say, he's not a Pitt Panther. He went to USC, the USC guy. And so that argument is more and more like which fan bases can claim him. And it kind of sucks because it hurts your loyalty to players, and the players' loyalty to the team is kind of shot too.
It's a great point. I don't know what the answer is there. It's well, it also right. I think when I watched the draft, I saw them list in some of those cases they listed like a slash where they went to school, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if when I was watching is that what I saw. I think I did see some of them listed as like a slash. So it's like it's weird. It's a whole. But back in the day, like when I played, if someone transferred in, it was just your new school that was listed.
Well, it still is. I haven't seen the slash, but for a guy like Zach Charbonnet, he finished his career at UCLA, was great, barely played at Michigan. There's no slash there. But I guess there are circumstances where there could actually be a slash. I mean, Julius Brents played, I think, 4 years at Iowa and then finished his career at Kansas State. Or, the example of Jordan Addison, 2-1, you could have a slash there. It just gets confusing for a fan. I would hate it. I mean, I'm not a fan of college football anymore. I've been writing for so long. I don't care if BC wins or loses. I like Jeff Hafley. He's a nice guy. I don't care. I used to really care like 25 years ago. I don't care anymore. But as a fan, I'd be pretty upset because it's so against the norm of what I'm used to. Like in the NFL, I'm a Cowboys fan. Deion Sanders, I didn't care about him at Atlanta. I hated him in San Francisco. I loved him in Dallas.
Right.
That's free agency. That's the NFL. It's professionals. But now, what do you do with these guys that left your team high and dry, and now they're off in the NFL? And I always used to take pride in Matt Ryan played at BC. That's our BC guy, and he's the highest ranked quarterback to ever be drafted at BC, and blah blah blah. You can't do that anymore, unfortunately, with a lot, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, more and more kids are just going to up and transfer, and we haven't even gotten into NIL yet. I mean, there's only been a couple instances like Addison. Like I said, his offensive coordinator, his quarterback, his wide receiver coach left, but he kind of went in for NIL. Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley left, so he has an excuse. He kind of went in for NIL. There's going to be guys that go, their coach is the same, the offensive coordinator is the same, everything's the same, and they're going to jump in just for more money. And then it makes it even harder. Like to lose a player that is great on your team just for money really would upset me greatly if I'm a fan.
There's no doubt about it. It would be incredibly. Yeah, I guess if you're a fan, it would be incredibly frustrating. Well, you see on the message boards and stuff, and I don't really go on Reddit that much, but people go crazy when they got the whole even this the Colorado thing. You see how nuts people are going, like either pro or con Dion on what he's done there. It's like. The two things, and you're involved a little bit on NIL side of it too. NIL and transfer portal have changed college football in a way that makes it unrecognizable. Other than the game on the field and the fact that they're wearing an Alabama uniform or they're wearing a Georgia uniform, it's not. It's a different game now. It's a different. Everything around everything outside of the actual game and maybe practices, it's a totally different element. I mean, just look at the facility wise. Like there's an arms race that's probably untenable in the facilities world. Like I look at stuff like Rutgers, and that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Like UConn has better facilities than Rutgers. I mean, that's just the truth. It's pretty crazy that that is actually the case, right? Because they're a group of five program versus Rutgers, which is, but there becomes an arms race. Now, Rutgers plays in the Big Ten, right? If they didn't have a big name like Shiano there, they'd really be in a lot of trouble. Like, I mean, they could be in trouble anyway because it's hard for them to get the players that these other guys have. And
Well, UConn's in trouble too. I mean, they're an independent. They don't have a conference. Rutgers went into the Big Ten, and they're also ran in the East. I remember the facilities because you remember when they put that beautiful football building at Rutgers. They had the indoor facility was kind of new. They were putting a lot of money into facilities. Shiano's first go around.
right,
UConn did the same thing. It was kind of right around the Edsel departure for Maryland. But
right,
they put that huge football building together. They put
right.
that indoor Phyllis facility. They had Rentschler Field, which was off campus, which is the difference between Rutgers and UConn.
Definitely,
But it
definitely.
was a ton of money, and then they stunk. And then people started saying, "Well, look at this! Like we're cutting professors at UConn, and we got this, all this multi-million-dollar football stuff for what?" Rutgers. There's been so many articles over the years about cutting sports and cutting, budgets, and Rutgers still have these million-dollar facilities, and they stink too. Both of them are in trouble. The arms race in football has changed from NIL. It's changed from facilities to NIL. You still have to have Dabo Swinney puts in a slide at his football facility. Somebody else has to put in a roller coaster. Oregon, updates with a levitating, floating waterfall sauna. Somebody else has to have that too. That continues, but now it's NIL more than ever. You get these kids, Bear Alexander leaving Georgia. He's a 5-star recruit. He went to Georgia. He didn't go back home to Texas because he was homesick. He went to USC because that's better NIL opportunity for him. And that's the new arms race. And it's going to lead to less loyalty amongst players. It's going to lead to fan bases feeling a little jaded, especially as the strong get stronger and the weak get weaker. And it's going to be really disappointing for the middling fan bases like Pitt, who are going to lose their best player, almost coming up every year to bigger bucks.
Did they lose anybody this year too, or?
Nah, not to that level. I mean, Jordan Addison was the biggest example of, a middling program, because Caleb Williams went Oklahoma to USC. So that's, but from Pitt to either Texas or USC, and Addison ended up at USC, it was clearly an NIL move. It was clearly, everybody can talk about how, he's best buddies with Caleb Williams, and they're not best buddies. They could talk about losing his coach. Well, if he loved Mark Whipple so much, he could have gone to Nebraska. If he loved his wide receiver coach so much, he could have gone to Texas. But then look at that. I mean, Whipple's gone at Nebraska. Wide receiver coach at Texas is at UNLV now. Like, you can't make those changes for coaches, but you make it for money. So as a fan, if you're a fan of a team like Iowa, Caden Proctor was a 5-star offensive tackle from the state of Iowa who committed to Alabama last year. That would have never happened in a million years. Those in-state kids at Iowa, especially offensive linemen, stay. But there's better opportunities for NIL down in Alabama, and he left. And so now Iowa has a good player. Like, let's say they have an elite running back, or let's say they have a great defensive player, like a linebacker. The Jack Campbells of the world, the Lucas Van Nesses of the world stayed. 5 years from now, those guys might not stay. They might just go to a bigger program where they can win a national title. And then as an Iowa fan, you become jaded. And then you like college football less. You like your program less. You stop investing as much money into season tickets and all this other stuff. You throw your arms up and say, college football sucks. And that's what's going to happen eventually. I don't know when, but, over the next 10 years, college football is already different, but it's going to be exponentially different as a fan. And I don't think it's going to be a pleasant experience as a fan.
That's what's really interesting is that, well, you're going to have I think you're going to have the elite programs that will continue to have the fan base because they're going to be so successful. But then, like, you're right. Like, what happens to the places that, I think this used to be a thing, and maybe I'm wrong, but every 5 years, Iowa State has a great team, right? Well, will they have the fan support at that point down the line, right? I mean, I don't know if they're a good example, but Missouri or any of these programs that are usually that are in bigger conferences, but they're pretty decent, but they're every once in a while they have a great team. Like, do those fan bases go by the boards where they were rabid fan bases before, and they rode those times? Will they be willing to do that 10 years from now? Will they even have an interest? I mean, look at basketball. Basketball is an example of, and it's different, but outside of March Madness, are people really that excited about basketball? I don't know. I don't think they are.
I don't know.
Betting keeps it alive. I will say that.
Well, and that'll help football,
right? Betting does keep it alive
as well. But I just think there's less now. If you're UConn and a couple of those key players are transfers from smaller programs, you're happy, But those smaller programs, if you keep taking from those smaller programs, eventually those teams are going to, maybe that's what college football is going to be about. Those teams are going to fade away. Maybe you're going to have, instead of 65, Power 5, so to speak, schools, maybe you're going to have 30 schools that survive, and then the others are going to drop off to lower levels. I mean, Rutgers, how do you sustain that? You're going to be last or second to last, maybe not last. I mean, Indiana's pretty bad. You're going to be pretty bad, because they're getting rid of divisions too. So, once USC and UCLA come in, then you've got a divisionless football and a 10-game schedule. No more, that's one less cupcake you can put up on your schedule. You're playing a 10-game schedule in the Big Ten as Rutgers. Every year you're going to assume you're going to go 4-8 at best, unless you get lucky, maybe 5-7, and you're just going to get worse and worse and worse and be at the bottom every year. So I just don't know how you kind of change that, and I don't know how those teams are going to survive. There's a lot of teams I think that are in big trouble. UConn has already been absolutely destroyed. They were in Conference USA, I think it was. No, they were in the AAC. They were in the Big East, then the AAC. Now they're in no conference. They're an independent. I don't think they're going to survive. You just can't as a football program. And I think you're going to see teams like, Rutgers and perhaps, I can't say Maryland, Syracuse, Indiana, BC. Some of these programs might not survive.
That's interesting. I mean, could BC not survive in the long run?
Well, they're lucky they're in the ACC.
Right.
Okay? They're lucky that there's obviously a lot of components against the ACC expanding. The ACC, back when expansion conference realignment was occurring, they made everybody say we're going to pay an exorbitant amount of money if we leave and blah, blah, blah. And it's very hindering for the Florida States and Clemsons to say I'm out of here. So that helps them. The Big Ten is TV money through the roof, right? They've got an amazing TV contract. So Rutgers is going to make money. But eventually, you remember Rutgers was brought in to get cable boxes, the contiguous states. Let's get into the New York market.
Right.
And that's Rutgers. And it wasn't because anybody watches Rutgers in New York. Nobody does. It's because you could get into all those cable networks. You could get those cable boxes in New Jersey to get the Big Ten network, to do all this other stuff. It was about cable boxes. Now with streaming, it's about none of that. The TV deals are huge. But eventually, if you're adding USC and UCLA, and maybe you add Oregon and Washington, you get a big conference. Eventually, you're going to purge, and you might get rid of a Northwestern if they're 1-11 every year, or a Rutgers if they're 3-9 every year. You might. Now, it's hard to get rid of them because there's contracts in place. But I just see the Big Ten as a good example. There's certain teams that are elite: Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, elite, right? There's certain teams with amazing fan bases and loyalty: Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, Nebraska. Then there's certain teams that are just in the middle that nobody really cares about football there as much as they should. Maryland, you could argue, is a basketball school. Michigan State, you could argue, is a basketball school. Indiana is certainly a basketball school. Rutgers is neither. Illinois is a basketball school. Northwestern is neither. Those teams could end up being pushed out eventually. I'm not saying next year, but in 10 years, you could see those teams pushed out. And then how do they survive without the TV money?
Could they do tiers, performance tiers down the line?
They could do anything. They could do a billion things. They could do a ton of things.
You might see that. You might have performance tiers.
Well, nobody knows what you're going to see, but I just know that right now, out of the teams that I cover, there's a bunch that people give a crap about, and there's a bunch that nobody cares about. I could write an article on a Rutgers commitment. I get 100 people click on it. But I write an article about Ohio State commitment, I get 10,000 people. And that's eyeballs, that's interest, that's who gives a crap. I think attendance will eventually dwindle. I don't know what Rutgers' attendance is. It can't be good. But it's going to get worse and worse.
Well, I do think the experience too, whereas for example, the NFL, obviously a lot of the teams are regional popular, but you have teams like the Cowboys that are nationally popular, not just their area, but also nationally popular. You now have teams like Alabama was always a well-known program, and Georgia's always a well-known program, but it's still mostly regional for many, many years. Now we're almost like, if they're on nationally, a huge following for Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State nationally, even Clemson nationally, USC nationally. There are fans on the East Coast of USC, right? So there are certain Notre Dame obviously has always been national. So there are programs throughout the United States now that in the past were regional. Now Texas is another one. People want to watch Texas, right? There are programs that are going to go beyond regional. That's going to begin to, over the next 10 years, change the landscape. Like, how do you tell Ohio State that they don't deserve more money, Ohio State and Michigan, that they don't deserve more money than, let's say, Northwestern in that conference, right?
Yeah, that's what already happened in the ACC. I mean, Florida State and Clemson have both come out and said, we're like 30% of this revenue, and why are we sharing it with everybody else?
There you go.
And that's going to get really nasty. It's going to get difficult. All these things. So what's shifting in college football is, less player loyalty, due to the portal as well as NIL. There'll be less fan loyalty to teams as they, the middling teams keep losing player after player after player. The big juggernaut teams will succeed. The other teams will struggle. And eventually, I think you'll see an NFL style, college football, where you got 32 or 30 teams, and you got them in divisions, and it's just, it's not sustainable to have, 65 teams that are quote unquote Power Five when Kansas is one of them and Indiana is another versus Notre Dame and USC. So, but we got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
It's 106.
myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo. We outlined all this stuff. Listen, reach out to me and Mike. We're glad to talk to you about this program. We're going to launch the monthly program online. And the other thing is this, listen, if you have a situation where you need to do different versions of payment plans, we can accommodate that. It may cost you a little bit more to do it over time, but we want to be able to get you in the program so you have an opportunity to be a part of it. And we understand how times are. You need to have some money, but you need to be able to. We want to be able to get you into the program so you can succeed. And I'll leave it at that. Mike, any final thoughts?
No, that's it. myfootballcamps.com/D1 promo. And for transfers, it's myfootballcamps.com/transfer.
All right. Till next time.